Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of my favourite characters from books I've read during July, August and September of this year. So every 3 months, I'll do a video like this, and I'll mention some of my favourite characters from books I only read during those 3 months. First character I want to mention is Brittle, and I met Brittle in Sea of Rust, written by C. Robert Cargill. Now this character I think is brilliant and so unique. Brittle is an android or a robot, one of the two, and she's different because in this book, the androids and the robots don't really have emotions. I mean, some of them may have a little emotion here and there and a weak emotion. Some of them may have stronger emotions. It depends on what the robots were designed for before their war with humans, because in the world in this book, it's after the war with humans and there's no humans on Earth at all. There's no life at all. It's just robots, as robotic life. And it's interesting having a character where you're not relying on emotions in that character to drive anything. They're not viewing the world with emotions. They're not making choices based on emotions. So everything is based on need. So this character makes choice based on need and what path is the easiest to meet those needs. That's interesting, I think, because it forces the reader to put their own emotions onto the characters and not get those emotions from the narrative. It made an interesting reading experience and made this character especially interesting because this character was protagonist in the story. And I found the reading experience so unique, I found the character so unique, but the character was so engaging and compelling, and I really liked Brittle in the book Sea of Rust. So for me, a great character, interesting character, and something I've not read before actually. I've not read books where all the characters just basically have no emotions. So Hazel, who I first met in the book The Tea Ladies, written by Amanda Hampson. So Hazel lives in the 1960s in Sydney, Australia in this book. And Hazel is a tea lady, so her job is to serve tea, coffee and biscuits to people in a company. And she serves the tea and coffee and biscuits and also has conversations with them. She's like kind of almost like a lifeline in a way to people, just to have a break and a conversation. And tea ladies in real life, it was a real job in real life. Their purpose was also to get to know workers and talk about their families and hobbies and likes and dislikes and all that sort of thing. So almost like an echo board in a way for people to talk to. So that was part of their job as well. So Hazel in this book I think is quite special. She is quite complex, and in this book we learn how clever she is, and that she hides the fact that she's so clever because she thinks she has to. She thinks at that time hiding how clever she is just helps the world go by, helps her go by in life easier, because people don't really like women who are clever at that time. That's her thought. Now, if a woman thought that now, I mean, it'd be so different because, we don't think about those things anymore. But maybe in the 1960s, a lot of women just thought they couldn't be that clever, or if they were, they had to hide it. So probably a cultural thing in the 60s. But also this character is compassionate. So other than being clever, she's compassionate, she's gentle, she's courageous. She's all these things, she's all these positive things. She's so much more than what other people see her as in this story. And also like in this plot, in this book, how she goes about kind of edging people towards decisions and making them think as their own choice. Not her decision, it's theirs, but she's kind of nudging them towards something she thinks is the best thing for them or the best choice. Happens quite a lot in the story. It just shows how clever she is as a person as well. So as characters go, I love her in this story. I think she's great. She is in the second book as well, of course, because she's a main character in the series, but I think she's a very special character indeed. Stephanie, who I first met in Skullduggery Pleasant, written by Derek Landy. Now in this book, Stephanie is a teenager, but she's a different sort of teenager. She's quite clever. She likes dark things, doesn't like, frilly things or bright things. She likes dark things, likes talking about them, researching them, learning about them, reading about them. And she's very clever. And I think it's those things she likes that helps her accept what happens in this story. As characters go, she reminds me a lot of Wednesday Addams, just liking those darker things in life, dark topics and dark concepts, and just how clever and witty and cunning she is as well. And all those characteristics of Stephanie's helps her in this story, helps her get through the challenges, what happens in this story. And I think if Stephanie wasn't written so well and like this in the story, the book wouldn't work at all because it relies on that. because the other character in the book, the other main character, bounces off that very well in the story. They work very well together. But Stephanie just stands out a lot because she is a bit old for her age in the story, maybe, but I think it's different because we're told early on that Stephanie is not like other children. Stephanie isn't one to have bright things and frilly things and like dolls and all that. She's different, but she's clever and she likes, more adult things, I think, like reading books, reading horror books and all this sort of thing. And I think a lot of readers can relate to that, I think, because Stephanie is, I think sometimes characters like this, they're the character that some readers think, I wish I was like that maybe as when I was younger, I wish I did those sort of things or had that interest. And I think now characters like that, we get them more often, I think, in fiction especially, because, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you wouldn't get a lot of characters like that because it wouldn't be something that was, accepted in society, I think. But I think now difference is accepted. I think characters that are different in certain ways, but still feel real in the context of the story, I think make for great characters and characters that are very engaging and compelling. Carol, who I first met in The Body on the Beach, written by Simon Brett. So the thing about Carol that struck me straight away is how rigid she is. Everything about her is rigid. How she goes through life, what she thinks about life. Her life in general is structured, it's rigid. Her home's structured and rigid, things are put away just so. She thinks there's rules in everything in life that are rigid and structured. And she has to, she has to abide by those rules and she expects everybody else to as well. And if people don't, it kind of throws her out a bit. She even adopts a dog because she thinks she has to, because having a dog, it's expected that it makes it easier to pass people when they're walking on the beach or walking somewhere, and people, it's like a social norm that's more acceptable to be walking with a dog. That's what she thinks. So it's structured even in getting a dog for her. She doesn't want a dog, but she adopts a dog because she thinks she has to, because it's a structured way of living. So I like the character because it's a bit quirky and it's so different, I think. And then later on, we get a bit of contrast where she meets someone else, befriends someone, and she starts to loosen up a little bit. Not too much, but you see, the slight movement of certain things, certain strict lines in her character. But it's this character's construct that makes her engaging at the start, because you think, oh, hang on, this character's a bit different. The character kind of makes sense because of her past and who she is. So it's not like she's outrageous and overly quirky and just too much in the story. She is what she is. It does make sense. And I just like the way it pulled me into the story actually when I met this character, because I want to find out more. I want to know why she's so structured and rigid. I wanted to dig more into this character underneath the character. I think that's a great way to write characters sometimes. If you can get little things about the character, and just certain readers, I don't know if all readers will, but some readers will become interested in certain aspects of the character and want to find out more. The sign of a great character, I think, a character that is well written, just highlights certain things just enough to make readers curious. The last character I want to mention is Jem, who I first met in Clockwork Angel, written by Cassandra Clare. Now, Jem is a character of contrasts. So Jem is a character that has to be active and fight evil. But Jem is also a character that is thoughtful, that's endearing, that cares for people. So there's complexity to this character. And one of the things about the character that's interesting is in the book, he has a condition because he was infected with demon venom in the story. So he has a condition that he relies on a certain thing to keep healthy. And that just adds different layers to the character as well. And you wonder, about this character because he's different to other characters in the story. He's also about action, but also about, accepting people, caring about people. He likes learning things. He's a musician as well. He plays the violin. So different layers to this character in this book. They all come through quite strongly and make for an interesting and intriguing character overall. I'm wondering what's in store for Jem in this series. It's a trilogy. I don't know if we do meet Jem in other books, but I expect to have the character in 3 books anyway in the trilogy. I wonder if he stays the same right through the story. I'm not sure. But so far, he is captivating as a character, he is endearing, he is compelling as a character. There's a lot to this character, and I think there's a lot more to learn in the character in future books. So a standout for me from this book, and a standout from those 3 months of all books I've read. There you have some of my favourite characters from July, August and September. Let me know what some of your favorite characters are. And if you have a favorite character in a book, does that mean that book rates higher in your view? Or does it really matter? I mean, can you have a terrible book and have a favorite character in a terrible book? Or can you have a great book and not have any characters that are your favorites? I mean, do characters really make a book, or do characters break a book? And I'm not sure on that. I think it depends maybe on the book and the characters. So I think sometimes you can have an awful book or a book that's not really good, but have some interesting characters. And I think sometimes you can have, a fantastic book and just wonder, are those characters your favorites, or the characters just created to suit the purpose of the story? That's interesting, I think, but let me know some of your favorite characters in books anyway. On my channel, I review books of all different genres. Check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.